Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rib, the end of a very, very exciting week. And they had a normally the school committee meetings aren't very exciting, but they had a very exciting school committee meeting, didn't they, CJ?
They were calling each other names. They were saying that this was a total political game, that, they're sick of politics. And it resulted in a school committee member, Sara Rodrigues, saying, I cannot work in this environment. I cannot make change. With that, I immediately resigned from this school committee. And she got up, collected her belongings, and walked out before the vote was taken. And that was it. That was the end. And she's right. It was all political games. The decision was made, and we said this on this show several weeks ago. The decision was made on who was going to get the job, which was Tracy Curley, long before they started the process. And I want to know why if they already knew who they were going to hire, why did they spend $10,000 on a search? Why did they hold interviews? But there is a question of the vote, a big question of the vote, because the vote was done by secret ballot, which is a violation of the law. You can't, not executive session. You can't do a secret ballot. You just cannot do a secret ballot. So there's a question now if that appointment is even legal. Yeah, Paul, I follow the law. My ass.
CJ, yeah. Well, look, I'm going to tell you why they spent $10,000. It's not their money. And secondly, they have to put on the show. They have to go through the pretend. Let's pretend this is a fair attempt to get a superintendent, but we know that's not true. It never is. I believe you called the superintendent as soon as they announced they were going to get a new superintendent. Look, we all know that nobody gets ahead in Paulie world unless they're friends of Paulie. There's no merit involved in this city. This is not a meritocracy. This is a Paulieocracy. He who kisses the most butt and ring gets the and while I understand it was a very kind of dramatic move by the school committee person to get up and say, I can't make change. But we knew that. It's just like Michelle Dion. She's right. However, I have to respectfully disagree with what she did. If it was an appointed position and you go, well, I'm not going to deal with this crap anymore. But the voters put their trust in her. She was an elected official.
And she came in at top of the ballot.
She was an elected official. And she was there to serve the people, to be our representative and our agent. And like I say, I respectfully disagree. I understand their frustration. I've been there numerous times. We all have in this city. But she was an elected member of the school committee. She was elected by the people. And she basically, she gave away that great gift that the voters gave her to elect her to represent them. I feel that she should have been the lone voice, created all kinds of chaos, been a thorn in their side for the rest of her term, and then not run again if she was that frustrated. But I would have been vocal. I would have done that at every council meeting. I would have called everybody out. I would have exposed everything they tried to hide under the table. And I would have created chaos there. she tried to do her job, and I know it's frustrating, but when you're elected by the people, I think you've got an obligation to fight for the people, even if it is not as Roosevelt said in The Man in the Arena. It's not the critic that counts; it's the man in the arena who strives and tries and fails and tries again. But you got to fight the fight. You're there. You were elected to fight the fight, just like Michelle is. We always comment on Michelle being the lone voice, and I know she's been frustrated sometime and said she wasn't going to run. But something? Every time she opens her mouth in the council, the people who elected her and the people of Fall River, it gives them a glimpse. And with her on the school committee, it gave a glimmer of hope. And I think I think it wasn't the right thing to do. She did what she thought was right. And, okay, I respect that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with, I just don't agree with it. But when she did resign, the only good thing is we got somebody there, Collin Dias, who has been in front of that committee numerous times, ran for election, and he finally has gotten a seat there. And I think he's going to do a good job, because Collin, I don't think, is going to cut and run. Collin's going to fight the fight, because now he's got a chair at the table. And I think he's going to be a very, very good school committee person, because he's got that fight in him. And he even I think the first time we met Collin, he was a very young man, and he was picketing against us when we were running the recall. Remember that, CJ?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we actually, had the police down there and everything, because I guess his mother got upset because there were a few of our people and one of him, but we went down there and we assured them that there would be no problem at all.
Exactly.
Because they got into a little, I guess, verbal thing. We weren't at the scene, but then we went down and we said, listen, we respect somebody's right to have a different opinion. As long as he doesn't engage us, we're not going to engage him. Let him say anything he wants. And then after that, we've been on the same side on a lot of issues. But even at a young age, Collin had the courage to stand up for his conviction. Whether we agreed or disagreed was irrelevant. He stood up for what he believed in. I think he's going to make a good school committee. And I think that he's going to be a thorn in their side. And all I can tell you is, Collin, just give them all the grief you can.
Exactly.
Do what you were elected to do. Represent the people and bring transparency to the people of Fall River. The people who didn't vote for you before will now see you do it in front of a camera, and I think that they will be very, very satisfied in what they got, because I believe that he's going to be a good school committeeman in a committee that's normally nothing but bobbleheads. And I know a couple of those bobbleheads were very infuriated because they were called out.
Yes, they were.
But they are.
Shelley Pereira, they were all upset. As a matter of fact, Shelley Pereira said, I am friends with Anna Riley. If I was going to choose my friends, I would have chosen her. But I chose what's best for the school system, which is baloney. And when Sara Rodrigues resigned, the mayor turned around. The mayor's comment about it was, I don't want to keep anybody here that doesn't want to be here. What a position to take. Okay, what a position to take. But I will tell you, I had a conversation with Collin right after he was sworn into office. And he said he is going to represent the people of Fall River, the taxpayer, and he's going to do what's best for the students. He is not going to represent the administration. He's going to represent the taxpayer. Now, Collin is a conservative. So all that was a vote for a vote. Sara walked out. Collin walked in. Two people who are going to fight. Sara's big fight was the fact that students were being denied their special education. The IEPs, the special education requirements, the access, they were being denied it. And she was fighting to be sure that those students who are the most vulnerable were represented properly. And every time, and she said, every time I said something, I wasn't heard. It was like I wasn't there. That is not the way you have representative government. Everyone should be heard.
Well, the reason Paul said he doesn't want to keep anybody there, that wasn't really what he said. But you got to read the Coogan Code.
Exactly.
It's like anybody whose vote I don't own can leave anytime they want, and I'm going to just wave and say, okay, I don't want you to be somewhere where you don't want to be. But because nobody that's in his camp ever leaves, because they get all the gravy, they get all their friends' jobs, they cover up everything, and they get the benefit of having all the benefits of being a political tick. And I know they were infuriated, but they shouldn't be there. The reality is that Mimi Larrabee should have never got reelected. She was one of the major cover-up artists with Malone. And I just got a text from one of our viewers saying, hopefully there's not enough executive sessions. Well, I agree, but the problem is the school department has always covered up everything. And they'll go to executive session even if it's not necessary to cover something up. They'll just declare we got to go to executive session. There's no transparency. And, but the people who suffer are the students and the school system. Now, look, I don't know this person from a hole in the wall. But apparently, a lot of people who are in that field say she's not really qualified. Is it something new in Fall River? No. Is it something new in the school department? The school department's like North Korea. Nobody knows what's going on in North Korea. Nobody knows what goes on in the school department. Everything's behind closed doors. Everything is always predetermined. And they don't want to hear anybody with a differing opinion. They call Kevin Aguiar a baby because he complains. They call, they didn't like school committee woman Rodrigues. They don't want to hear an opinion. They want to spend all their time telling everybody how great they are, creating jobs, and never, ever talking about the fact that we have had historically a failing school system.
Pontificating. That's what they do. They pontificate.
Yeah, exactly. They pontificate, but they also obfuscate the truth. See, we'll get a little rhyming word. We're gonna obfuscate the truth. Nobody ever has talked. I haven't heard anybody get up in that school committee and say, listen, we can't be graduating 53%. We can't be on the verge of a state takeover all the time. We're not getting this job done. This is an educational system, not an employment agency for political ticks. And this is what we have. This is what we have. And
what's interesting is the school committee made it clear that she was hired. Tracy Curley was hired because of her tenure in the school department. She was being rewarded, and they justified it by saying, well, she knows the system. She's been here. Yeah, she's been here. She's the one that supported Malone in the abuse and the attacks. She supported that. She felt that. A person who has a track record with school systems, Anna Riley, wasn't even considered. And what was said was, in Fall River, when you fail, you get promoted. You move forward. And that's what's happening here. Absolute failure in the process. And all you got to do is look at the metrics. Look at the school system's performance. It's piss poor. And that's what she should have been judged by.
Well, CJ, I think you hit a very, very salient point here that she was hired for all the wrong reason, that she's been in that system forever and she knows it's failing.
And that's
And
exactly
the
what Kevin
thing is that
Hagenbach said.
she's part and parcel of that failing system.
Yes.
What happens when you get something that invariably is a dismal failure? We look at this throughout the country. When police departments are in a total state of disarray, what happens? They hire a police chief from out of town who doesn't know anybody. They don't want him to know anybody. They are administrators. They're going to go in there, and if they know how to put together a functional system, they're going to put together a functional, and they're going to judge each person on their perception of what they're doing and the proof of what they're doing. Sometimes it's better. It's great to have a career ladder. But when you have a career ladder that always ends up with somebody running a department and the department is a dismal failure, you got to change the way you do business. Is it a surprise? No. I remember decades ago when they hired a superintendent of schools, and as soon as the names were announced, we knew who the superintendent of schools was going to be. And they had, and it may have been 4 or 5. They had at least 4 other candidates who had PhDs and extensive resumes. And they hired the individual who didn't have a PhD. And you know what they said? Oh, he's from Fall River. He knows the system. Well, he should have run away from the system. But this is what they do. As you said, they reward. This is the PETA principle on steroids. They've all been elevated to their level of incompetency. And this individual, from all the information we're getting, really wasn't. And to get this kind of response, I mean, even when we've had other superintendents that we knew very, very well were not the correct choice. I mean, look at this is fundamentally what Fall River always does. We always pick the political person. This is why I fought so hard to keep the chief's job in civil service, because at least, even though it was political, because they get to pick from the top 3, but at least you got to take a test. And what did they do as soon as they took it out of civil service? They appointed a guy totally unqualified to be the fire chief. He lasted 13 days. Michael Coogan, the brother of the mayor. This is Fall River. And people go, oh, you guys are always, no, it's not negativity. This is reality. He was a lieutenant who couldn't get a high enough mark on a captain's exam to make captain. And because he kissed political ass, he lobbied himself in to become the fire chief. And then there was all kinds of outrage. I wrote a letter to the editor. Even the Herald News made an editorial about it. He was taken out, and they put it back in civil service. And listen, I'm not going to pretend. When it gets down to a department head, even when it was civil service, it's always going to be the most political of the top 3, the one that they can control the most. But at least you've got some competition. And if you took it out of civil service, most of the time you take things out of civil service, it allows you to hire people from outside the jurisdiction. Or if you remove the fire chief or the department head, then you can say, well, we can hire somebody from out of town. But it's just, look, Fall River is the very definition of insanity. They repeat the same actions all the time and then tell you we're going to have a different outcome. And you've got to be a loon to believe this. This is again Coogan saying F you to you, the people, the taxpayers, the voters, and the students in the city of Fall River. We've got a historically failing system. And you never hear it discussed. And when Collin's on the board, I think there will be discussions. And I hope he brings it up. But this is another outrageous, ridiculous political move by the most political mayor we've ever had. It's just crazy. Back to you.
You know, one of our viewers sent me some information about what's coming up on the school committee agenda, and it looks like the Coogan infestation may be ending because Tom Coogan is retiring from the school department. Yay! About time. The cover man, covered for Matt Malone, the cover man, never followed through with anything. The cover man. This is what happens. This is what we deal with. Okay? If we can get rid of the Coogan and Long infestation in city government, the city will be better off. Maybe the next election, if the dictator decides to run again, somebody will displace him. And hopefully that person will have the audacity and the cojones to turn around and say, get out of my city. Get out of my employment. I don't need you here. Give me your resignation and leave. Because that's what needs to be done. We need to have a clean sweep in Fall River government. A clean sweep. And we can start with the school department because we know there's a lot of wasted positions. And I had this conversation with school committee member Collin Dias yesterday. And I said, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I said, the school system is failing, but we keep hiring friends. We keep hiring people and we're spending money. He says, yes, and every extra dime that the school department takes and spends, the city has to meet. Because remember, we have to do 100% net school spend. So we have a percentage. So if they get $1 million more, we got to come up with some more money. He's like, and that's not the way it should be. And if we have to start rejecting that money, maybe we should. Especially because we're not getting our best bang for our buck. The students aren't getting what they deserve. The students are getting what the dictator thinks they should get. Not what they deserve. What he thinks they should get. The school department, the school superintendent thinks they should get. As long as I get my friends a couple of jobs, they can get a little bit less. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening in this system. The student is taking it in the face. And the parents, as much as they're trying to fight for their kids, like Sara Rodrigues, they're not heard. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. I hope nobody else resigns.
CJ, I think this is a lesson learned today on the school committee. School committee's been ignored for a long time because everything over there is like hidden and you don't really get. Maybe Collin will be successful in bringing some of these things out. You know, I know that Aguiar's said some things, and of course they dismiss him as somebody, oh, you're negative, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, you're a crybaby, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, let's hope that this infuriates people. You said that she topped the ticket. All those people who voted for her obviously probably disappointed that she left. But listen, take your vote and vote for the people who are working for you. Get rid of those slugs, those bobbleheads that are on the school committee. Two of them didn't run, and now Corey's back, another bobblehead back. And Mimi Larrabee never left. They don't care because they keep getting elected. No matter how much they defecate on your head, they've convinced you it's a mudslide. How can you allow these people to get back into office? We've got 40,000 people that didn't vote. Every parent in that school system should be organized to vote for people who are going to work for them. I mean, the system is absolutely corrupt. We have generational corruptness here. Generational corruptness. I mean, just look at the school department. When his brother got to be fire chief, then he left the fire department. He was thrown out of the union. He was thrown out of the state union, thrown out of the local union, and he disappeared. But guess what? He reappeared years later. He kept his head down. He put in our favorite rule: keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, disappear. It'll blow over. Somehow he got hired by another union after being thrown out of a union for basically selling out his membership. He works for AFSCME.
And he negotiates contracts with his brother.
Which is really, really a dues collection agency. But he was working in the other part of the state. But when Paul got in, they got him back. In the last contract negotiations, he was negotiating contracts in this city. And on the school department, he was negotiating with his own brother who was in charge of HR. And then the contract would go to his other brother, who's the chairman of the school committee and the mayor who funds the contracts ultimately. That's a damn unfair labor practice. But everybody's so intimidated by this mafia group that we got running this city now. They're afraid to do anything. They had one union president try to do something and they ran her out on a rail. They bullied and badgered her until she left, because that's what they're good at. Putting their people in and bullying and badgering. They hire the bullies. They hired Matt Malone. Matt Malone was a hired bully. Matt Malone was thrown out of 2 school systems because of his behavior. I talked to an attorney who was actually one of the attorneys that got him bounced out of Swampscott. I believe it was Swampscott. And he told me, I never saw a guy like that. Unbelievable, he said. You put him in a room, within 5 minutes, he's going to shit on the floor. He's just that kind of guy. He's just a troublemaker. He's a bully. And he came to this school system and bullied people. And there has still been no justice for those people who were abused by this individual who used his power to abuse them. And our school committee, Mimi Larrabee, Tommy Corey, the other guy that was what's his name? Coogan's walking buddy that used to be used to be a probation officer there.
Oh,
it's irrelevant.
Mark Costa, I think it was.
Well, the names the names change, but
he's now
the attitude's different.
He's now the chief probation officer.
Yeah, they're all bullies, and they allowed that bullying because they have their minions do the bullying. Just shut up and do what you want. and you just give us everything we want. We give you everything they want, and you want, and that's. But it's the voters' fault. You leave these people in. How Mimi Larrabee ever got reelected is beyond me. Not on her performance on a school committee.
And remember, she got a job with a school department contractor while she was on the school committee. And the only thing that she, quote unquote, has to do is not vote on that contract or vote on anything to do with that contract. And you and I both know that's BS.
Yeah. Well,
that's BS, because she will have the ears of all those school committee members. Because if they don't get the grant to that contractor, she's out of a job. No money, no jobby. That's the way it works.
well, look, this has to be a call to arms for the voters. People with children in this system who want their children to be educated have to be paying attention here. They drink their Kool-Aid and they never discuss the failures. It's always hire more people, create this, do this, more deputies, more assistants, more this, more that, and nothing gets done. And the problem is, listen, you tell me if you hire 2 more people, I can get this job done 2 months quicker and it'll save you money in the long run. I'll say, yeah. But then if you tell me if you hire 2 more people, I'll pay them more and it'll take us 10 years longer and you're going to pay 50 times more, you got to be really stupid to support that action. And that's what they do in Fall River. Yeah. They keep just hiring people, sticking them in jobs, and no performance and no accountability. And the only accountability will be when the people finally get pissed off enough to get off their ass and vote. Get these people out. If Sara Rodrigues was at the top of the ticket, she pulled a lot of votes in. Everybody that voted for her should say, damn it, I want somebody that's going to represent me. And I think Collin Dias will learn that vote. But only vote for people who are working for you and who are calling the system out and saying, listen, this system is not working. Nobody ever hears that from the school committee. There's always some kind of story. They divert, they deflect, they do anything to remove the fact that we on this show said that 336th in one place. But nobody talks about that. There's 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts, in case you didn't know it. We were ranked 336th in one of them, and we're at the bottom of everything. You think that should be a topic of discussion by our freaking school committee? Well, I do. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Maybe what's going to get these people pissed off is Tansy parents, if you remember, filled the school committee meeting and were heard. And they were told that they would not close Tansy at this point in time until they do a study. So far, we haven't heard anything about the study. But according to parents, they're getting letters reassigning their children to new schools. This is how it works. We deflect it for a little bit. Hopefully you forget. And then we do what we're going to do anyways. When are you going to learn? They don't care what you have to say. They don't care. You were told they were going to wait until they did a study. They do studies on everything. They didn't do a study on this. They just decided to do it. You're out of here. We're sending your kid to Istanbul.
Doesn't that sound familiar, though? Isn't it kind of the modus operandi of Paulie, the pathological prevaricator? Didn't he tell the city council once that he'd get back to them, and all he did was let the clock run out and take the power away from them?
That's right.
Didn't he do that?
Yes, he did.
Doesn't he do that all the time? He says, well, we're not going to do this, but then he does it.
Right.
Oh, we're going to look at it, and I don't think we're going to do it. But no, they have the absolute power, And his thing is, we're gonna get it. We're gonna do it our way, whether we like it or not. Well, look, maybe the North End people are more prone to vote anyway, but the rest of the city has got to get engaged. I mean, we've got a lot of people in our school system. It's our school system's job to educate our children. They're not doing it. And it just always, that's why I never really spent a lot of time even paying attention to the school committee. I will watch it now that Collin's on there because I want to see, he's had the courage to get up in front of a microphone even when they tried to stop him and say what he had to say. Now that he's got a seat at the bully pulpit, maybe we're going to see some fireworks. But I'll tell you, I just cannot reconcile the fact that you never hear discussions about how badly this system is failing after all the jobs, all the money we've pumped into this mess. We never go upward. We go down. And what did they do? And I will now resurrect what a very, very prominent member of the educational community, and you read it on the show, CJ, that the answer is not to lower the standards. The answer is to demand excellence. What does Fall River do? They fudge the education, the graduation numbers. They make excuses. They lower the scores. They don't want to get testing. They don't want to do anything. They want to pull a Baltimore and let people graduate from high school that are reading on a second, third, fourth, fifth grade level, and about 50% were reading on the 8th grade level, and they were giving them high school diplomas. Why? Because it was the easy way out. That's not what we're paying our taxes for. The school department has a gigantic budget. They have people making gigantic pays. And there's nothing about the abysmal failure that this system is. I just don't understand. I can't understand why people would. If I had a child in this system, I'd probably get locked up if I went to a school committee meeting. But with that, CJ, back to you.
It's interesting. I mean, hopefully the exterminator can get rid of the Coogan-Long infection. I don't think there's enough antibiotics in the world to cure that infection. But it's something that we need to look for. And you know what will cure that infection? The voter. The voter will cure that infection. And that's what we need. You have people who have lived off the system their entire life are getting huge pensions. And then they come back for a second bite at the apple so they can get another $120,000 a year. So they can make even more money off the taxpayer and produce nothing. Nothing. This is what Fall River produces. There was once a time when people were proud to be from Fall River. Now you hear it everywhere. I visited Fall River once. I'm never going to go back there again. The place is a dump. The place is corrupt. If people from outside can see how corrupt we are from one visit, you have to ask yourself, what are we missing? What are we as the residents missing? Let's see. Your water bill starting July 1st is going up 24%. Your sewer bill starting July 1st, 24%. Your water and sewer bills for the next 5 years will go up an additional 5% every year, regardless of cost, to build up their stabilization accounts. You're going to pay. You're going to pay. That's what's going to happen. You're going to pay.
And just as an aside, CJ, so I can explain it to some of our viewers who aren't used to negotiating like contracts like I have to do, and they're not really familiar with a multiplier principle, if they were trying to give the taxpayer a break and they needed the money, not that I believe they're doing it because they're doing it strictly to get a revenue stream, but they would have said, well, you're going to go up 5% a year, and then at the end we'll go up to 23% or 25% or whatever the hell it is. And then it will actually be less because the multiplier principle kicks in, because now you're going to increase the base 5 times. And then you're going to put that 5% on a greatly increased base. So every year you get that 5%. It's not truly going to be 5%. Do the math. Put in a number. If you got a 5% raise on $100, what is that? 5% of 100. Now, if you raise that base up to 125, it's not 5%. 5% of 125 is greater than 5% of 100. And every single year after that, you've got that multiplier principle factored in. They just bent you over and screwed you. Intentionally, too. Then, to put the whipped cream, the nuts, and the cherry, and it's not chocolate sauce, it's brown. Be careful. That's what they feed you. Okay? Be careful. With no shame at all. It doesn't matter. This is not about how much water you use. This is about us getting money. This is a money grab. Period. So now they're giving you the double whammy. They're urinating on your leg and they're defecating on your head. And with that, CJ, back to you.
I don't even think I have an umbrella big enough. And I don't have a doggy waste bag big enough to handle all that crap.
Yeah, I got a big dog, but even my doggy bags aren't big enough for that pile.
Exactly. You know, it gets to be very interesting. Well, enough about this school committee thing. I mean, we've wasted 44 minutes just talking about the school committee. Nobody talked about the fact that Nicholas Hoare is in jail finally in Elkin, Ohio, which is a minimum security men's prison. Currently, we have 4 convicted officials, with 3 currently in jail. Well, but 4 of it has no corruption. No corruption. When are they going to come and take Paul away? Let's see that happen. Let's see that happen. Because you know what? I'm tired of this. And I'm not being negative. This is a wish. This is a wish. If I have to say a novena for 9 days and fast for 9 days to make it happen, I will. It's time for change. It's time to be sure that your voice is heard. And as you saw from Patrick, already Ray Mitchell is ranting on We Suck at Radio, equating her resignation to taking her bat and ball and going home and protest by resigning. She didn't even bother to dress up to attend a school committee meetings. Well, I remember you wore a tie all the time, Ray, but nowhere does it say you have to dress up.
Listen,
nowhere does it say that you have to be judged by your appearance.
So the propaganda, Radio Pravda now is getting the propaganda. They want to completely deflect from the fact that she was justified to her opinion.
Exactly.
and that she had a valid concern and she expressed it and she did. I don't agree with her taking her bat and ball and going home. I think she should have shit all over that meeting. She should have disrupted that meeting so badly they had to shut it down.
I agree.
But that's the way I would do it. But Ray Mitchell still thinks Biden is sharp as a tack and the border's closed and that we have no inflation. So any similarity between reality and what they're saying on Radio Pravda is purely coincidental. So this is how quickly that the spin machine goes in. So you know that she was right. Because instantaneously the next day, they're trying to crucify the messenger. She was bringing a message to the people of Fall River. This is a corrupt school committee, and this school system is in deep trouble, and they're going to make it worse. And that's her opinion. But what do? Radio Pravda will immediately attack her. And, Ray Mitchell is he's a liberal political commentator, and he does what the hell he's told. I mean, he loves Biden. I mean, even though he's destroyed the entire planet, not just the country, the entire planet, and now we're facing World War III. I wonder if we get nuked, he's going to still support Biden. I don't know. Because we're on the verge of nuclear war, too. I mean, you don't realize it. Or we're on the verge of losing American lives. We just celebrated D-Day and the sacrifice of our greatest generation. And now we have our men and women in uniform in harm's way because Putin is not Joe Biden. He doesn't talk shit. The guy was a KGB agent, not some clown that got elected to the Senate at 29 and had a mediocre career and was known as one of the dumbest people in the Senate. This guy's a real killer, a KGB agent. He said, now Biden said it's okay for them to use bombs to bomb inside Russia. Well, I guess it's okay for us to give arms to, he didn't specify, but he meant Iran and Hezbollah and the rest of these people to bomb American bases in that area. And there are a lot of American troops in the Middle East right now. Those things. And if that happens, it's on him. And then that rotted bag of oatmeal got on there and said, oh, well, we told them they can only bomb 200 miles into Russia. I don't give a shit if you're 2 inches into Russia. You're bombing their homeland. And now you say, okay, we're going to help them bomb your homeland. Well, you're going to give them arms to attack them. We'll give arms to your enemies. Because remember what a wise man once said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So he wants to make us their enemy. They're jeopardizing the lives of American servicemen and nobody gives a shit. It's just like the school committee. That's why we have to have a radical change in this country. You have to remember, we need peace, not wars. And the Democrats who are always complaining, they're the biggest warmongers in the world. So with that, CJ, back to you.
This country has been lucky. They've never had war on our homeland. Never. Except for Civil War, which was in the 1800s. We've never had a foreign enemy invade the United States of America. And we've been lucky. But now the United States, through the Ukraine, is going to bomb Russia. Well, maybe Russia's going to bomb the United States through Hezbollah or some other organization. And guess what? there's no defense to it.
We
If
we
it's
may
good for us,
we
it's
may
good for them.
see military actions within the continental United States. Remember, Biden's open border, they've let in about 25,000 military-age Chinese, Iranians, all kinds of free people from the Middle East in countries that are not friendly to the United States, unvetted. They found some of them on military bases already. And you're not going to tell me there's a whole bunch of terror cells. And it's not just me. The director of the FBI said the threat level in the United States for internal attacks in the United States is its highest level ever. But this time it won't be an airplane. You will probably see military actions. They actually filmed Chinese illegals going to the gun ranges.
Yeah.
Practicing. And there's clueless Biden that can't find his way off a stage saying everything's great. No problem. No problem. Don't worry about it. Look, we got some serious problems in this country. November will be a pivotal election nationally for this country. And the following election in the city of Fall River will be a pivotal election for the people of Fall River. And I just hope these people that will not just refuse to get motivated and educated about the reality of what we're facing get their heads out of their ears, because we got some serious things, the potential for some serious problems down the road. And with that, CJ,
I agree. Well, everyone, have a good weekend, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.